Hey, I'm Enda. And when I was born, I didn't start breathing automatically. My biological mother's traumatic pregnancy had led to this moment, and everyone thought I died, but I came back to life. And I was adopted 4 weeks later by an incredible family, but I became very sick a few weeks later, and again, they thought I was going to die at hospital. And my mother said I was a very anxious baby, very aware and sensitive. And I grew up in a family with 3 siblings, and I never felt like I belonged truly, and I knew I would never really fit in. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, sensing the warmth of my family surrounding me, yet feeling like I couldn't quite connect with them. It's like I wasn't present in the conversations, but instead I found myself distracted by random sounds that seemed so loud to me, and painful intensity of the bright lights in our kitchen. And over time, the feeling of not being able to connect and not belonging intensified. And this left me with more anxiety, depression, and a deep unease growing within myself. And more situations in my life played out that made things much worse, and I began to self-medicate. And this involved drinking lots of alcohol from a young age and using drugs anywhere I could get them, because I'd do anything to suppress the pain. And I spent many years of my life and energy just pushing it away, keeping it at arm's length, unwilling to face it. But then I had an experience that really showed me what alcohol and addiction was creating in my life. It wasn't pretty. This was the catalyst for me to stop drinking and doing drugs. So within a year I was clean and sober, and I thought I'd really kicked self-sabotage out of my life. At least that's what it looked like on the outside. But the truth is, the transference of alcohol and drug addiction has just filtered into every aspect of my life in so many other ways. And that insanity lasted well over a decade. It affected all my relationships, and I started using the excuse of becoming a father to isolate myself from friends and family alike. And around that time, I began to realize I was in a toxic relationship, but I was afraid to make any changes. The relationship was familiar and we had a son to raise, but what I didn't realize is by leaving, I would have changed my relationship with myself for the better. Because the path I was on back then was just killing me. It was totally destructive. And I remember a question that started as a whisper that reverberated through my head, and it grew louder when I went to bed each night. I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Why do I keep choosing all this shit? Why do I keep choosing circumstances that totally drain me? And those questions fueled me to look at what was not working in my life. But then my mother died all of a sudden, and it hit me hard because it was only really in the last month of her life that we'd been talking every week. And a month later, my now ex, my son and I moved to a different country, and the energy behind those questions led to the official break up of the long-term relationship we were in. So I plummeted a bit more as I found myself in this conflictual reality. Like I lived somewhere I had no desire to be, yet I had every desire to stay and be a father to my son. So I simply had to find a place of my own, and to pay for this, I ended up working for a guy, but when I found him totally abusive, I just pulled the plug. So there I was, suddenly, in an empty apartment, wondering how I was going to pay my rent, and judging myself in the most hideous ways possible. I still remember the day I sat in the apartment 7 floors from the ground, just total heaviness brewing in the air around me, wondering which window should I jump out of, because I was totally convinced I was just ready, ready to die. I was just sick of it. But in that moment I realised, just hang on a second, what the fuck am I thinking? What am I saying to myself? And some kind of lightness dawned on me that all of my life I'd been trying to fix and control things. I've been trying to change the past. I've been trying to change my circumstances. And I'd even been trying to change other people. But had I actually considered what I could change within myself? And that's when I realised, in that moment, in this empty apartment, I could choose to give into misery and jump out the fucking window, or I could choose to go another way and actually become happy. Because even though you can change your perception of the past, life isn't about what happened before, and you can't actually change the events. So shortly after this experience, I started pulling myself together, and I started down the path of becoming diagnosed with autism. So here I was, 45-year-old man with a son thinking, I'm disabled. But the process of being diagnosed shed light on so many things. Like things in my life started to fit together. Moments when I really wasn't being me became clear. And the day before I was diagnosed with autism, one of my mentors pointed me in the direction of hypnosis. And so the day after this, I was diagnosed in the morning, and later that afternoon I experienced hypnosis for the very first time. It's my diagnosis hypnosis day. It was just such a pivotal day in my life. It just changed my world, because it led me to finding my true self within that first hypnotic session. And the timing was perfect, it was massively life-changing for me. And then through regular hypnosis sessions, I began to create my place in my world, creating things in my brain and changing things in my reality that really helped me to let go of the past. And I let go of trying to change things I had no control over. Instead, I was empowered to completely change my perception of everything and anything that had happened in the past. So I became way less anxious and depressed, and suddenly self-sabotage wasn't as intense in my world. In fact, I became much more aware of these self-sabotaging patterns, and I'd make different choices before they even came up. And overall, I was much more aware. All the suicidal thoughts I'd before went away. And I stopped using cannabis for pain management for 2 frozen shoulders after a 2-year addiction to it. And I stopped using CBD even. And I noticed a greater sense of self-peace and peace in my life and my relationships. And in general, I found it easier to make money. I found it easier to talk to people. And I made the choice to let go of judgment and instead chose to become much more present, just simply being in this moment. Hypnosis helped me with all of this. And the thing is, all those addictions to self-judgment, shame, alcoholism, self-medication, toxic relationships, you name it, all these were never the real problem. They were only just the symptoms. And hypnosis was the catalyst that brought me to this awareness. And so now, my target is to facilitate people out of self-sabotage and addiction into becoming much more aware, and by creating much more expansive lives. Because the simple yet powerful solutions that change my life so quickly can assist anyone. So it's possible for everyone to have freedom from addictions and self-sabotage. And just so you're aware, this is a progressive journey in my life, where I continue to use all the tools of hypnosis to support myself in making different choices, because that in turn creates a different future for me. I no longer medicate with any drugs, and I've been sober from alcohol, cigarettes and all that for 15.5 years. But beyond those symptoms, the vast majority of the underlying pain I've been avoiding has just dissipated. So, if you find yourself struggling with self-sabotage, anxiety, depression, or any addictions that go along with those conditions, if you are someone who has always felt like you didn't belong, what if now is your time to discover your place in the world? And what if that begins within you? And what if I can help you to do that? Because I put together a super simple hypnosis session called Gosh, the Gift of Self-Healing. Now, I've been told that freebies should only be 5 minutes long, but I'm interested in delivering something that will deliver great results, okay? And Gosh has had 14,000 listens on Insight Timer and so many 5-star reviews that I'm reluctant to offer you anything else, okay? So if you're willing to go on the journey into your own self-healing, just click the link below for your free gift. You can download the audio and begin.